Aboitiz Power powers progress in the lives of every Filipino every day. We power your homes, your businesses, and your communities in a reliable, cost-efficient, and sustainable way. Over the last century, we have been at the forefront of our country's energy transformation, reimagining sustainability and constantly powering a sustained and inclusive economic growth for our nation. Every day, we will keep the lights on, and every day, we are a step closer to a better future with Aboitiz Power.
Got no time to always keep an eye on the stock market? You can stop worrying about the stocks that you have and those that you don't after setting up your conditional order. Set, forget, don't fret. Now available on AB Capital Advantage. Here's how. Log in to your AB Capital Advantage account. On the Quick Trade tab, select either buy or sell and choose Stop Limit as typing order. Select a stock and indicate the number of shares. Set the limit price. It's the highest price at which you are willing to buy or the lowest price at which you are willing to sell stocks. Set the trigger price. Once the price of the stock reaches your trigger price, the platform will automatically start buying or selling the stock. Please take note. For buy orders, the trigger price should be greater than the current stock price. For sell orders, the trigger price should be less than the current stock price. Lastly, choose the term of your conditional order. It can be good for a day, a week, or a month. But please keep in mind that triggered conditional orders are only valid on the day they are triggered. That easy! With the AB Capital Advantage conditional order feature, you don't have to miss stock market opportunities and you can manage investment risk even when you are away. Find out how you can have access to our AB Capital Advantage platform by visiting our website.
Aboitiz Power powers progress in the lives of every Filipino every day. We power your homes, your businesses, and your communities in a reliable, cost-efficient, and sustainable way. Over the last century, we have been at the forefront of our country's energy transformation, reimagining sustainability and constantly powering a sustained and inclusive economic growth for our nation. Every day, we will keep the lights on. And every day, we are a step closer to a better future with Aboitiz Power.
Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much that you are a. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon for another edition of AB Capital Securities Earnings Call. My name is Jeff Tang, and I will be your host and moderator for our call this afternoon. Before we begin, let me encourage everyone to interact with us by expressing your comments, sharing with us your thoughts, maybe sharing even your best investing experience with AP, Aboitiz Power, of course. And if ever you have some questions all throughout the session, please type them in the chat box. Although we won't get to them until the end of the presentation, just leave them there and we'll be sure to get through them for whatever time we'll have after the presentation proper. Okay, I hope you are as excited as I am for the session today, and we hope to make your investment, especially on a Friday afternoon, worthwhile. After all, we will be speaking to a company, a listed company since 2007. Um, and this listed company is definitely one of the essential businesses running in the Philippines because they are powering this country as well as our economy. And while that may have been a hyperbole, it's not an exaggeration because Aboitiz Power Corporation, I was just told also today, or actually it happened recently, is now the biggest power generating company here in the Philippines with an attributable installed capacity of more than 5,000 megawatts, if I'm not mistaken. Team, just please correct me if I got that wrong, but they are now the biggest power generating company here in the Philippines. What's more is that Aboitiz Power, which goes by the ticker symbol AP, is also the second biggest RES or retail electricity supplier here in the Philippines, having a 19.58% share. Now, I speak to some friends, some clients who are running businesses, and being an RES supplier only means that Aboitiz Power directly talks to and deals with uh, commercial owners and business owners to supply power directly and fulfill their energy requirements. Now, I do understand that we have varied audiences. We have a varied audience today. We have some investors who are seasoned investors. We have some newbies, perhaps. We have some foreign investors as well. So please allow me to just set the table a little bit before we call in our guest speakers. Of course, Aboitiz Power Corporation is the 29th most actively traded stock here in the Philippines for the year 2022. Aboitiz Power is also the 18th biggest listed stock here in the Philippines, having a market capitalization of 250 billion pesos. Of course, Aboitiz Power is part of the prestigious 30 stock Philippine Stock Exchange Index, or the PSEI, having an index weight of 1.43%. Of course, Aboitiz is part of the industrial sub index, and although that's a hodgepodge subsector, but nonetheless, they're there. Now, of course, I don't have all the information, obviously, and I'm very excited to be speaking to our featured company. So with that, please allow me to introduce our guest speakers. Our guest speaker from Aboitiz Power. First and foremost is Mr. Judd Salas. Judd is the Vice President and Head of Investor Relations for Aboitiz Power Corporation. Hey, Judd.
Hi guys, I'm very happy to be with you all here today. Thanks to AB Capital.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and we're very happy to finally have you here on this channel. We've been wanting to speak to you, and actually, we're very excited, not only about Aboitiz Power, but the Philippine power industry. So we thought that this is just the best time to have you here.
Great. We're excited to do work on our presentation.
Yeah, pero John, I guess before we begin, I just have to share. While I was preparing for our call today, I just realized that when I started professionally in the stock market back in 2008, no, so I hope I didn't give away too much of my age, but in 2008, I remember Aboitiz Power was just trading at 6 pesos. And even went lower during the time. That was because of the great financial crisis. And then, during the time, it was a period of transition or maybe transformation for Aboitiz Power because, of course, today it's at 33. Um, but during the time, 6 pesos, Aboitiz Power was just winning power plants left and right. But other than the stock price as well as you're the biggest power generating company today, I've noticed that AP has a different logo, which is I can see on your right side. It's GT 2025. Before we officially begin, can you share with us? Can you explain to us what is the meaning of that GT 2025?
Well, the GT 2025 logo that you see here on my side is actually the logo that talks about the massive transformation that's happening across the Aboitiz group today. So not just for
Mhm.
Aboitiz Power, but across the whole Aboitiz group. So the different colors here that you see
Mm.
in this logo represents the different businesses that we have. And in particular, our energy business is going through a massive transformation, which we
Mhm.
will talk to you about in the next few minutes because we are transforming energy for a better world, meaning to say
Mhm.
the state of energy as we see it today. We are concentrating all of our time and talent to move it into a state which we believe will create a better world for you and for me. So we're
sounds really good. I'm sorry, what's that again?
we're very excited to tell you how we're doing that.
Yeah. I understand that we only have, I guess, strictly an hour for this presentation, and because of that, let's get started. The floor is yours, John.
Mhm. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us here today. Before anything else, the most important part of this presentation is actually a message, a recorded message from our CEO, our Chief Energy Officer, Mr. Manny Rubio. And so, without further ado, we would like to play for you a recorded message from Mr. Manny Rubio.
With great power comes great responsibility. No one understands this better than Aboitiz Power. We have the power to create and influence change, and we have the power to transform the landscapes of what we do for our customers, our communities, our country, our nation, and ultimately our world. We at Aboitiz Power are no strangers to transformation. We live it, we breathe it. It is the current that runs through our veins. We are now at the brink of the single biggest transition in energy that we will undertake. This will require massive effort from everyone, from the executive leadership teams to every team member from all over the nation in every area where we operate, from every single stakeholder. So, where do we get this energy to power our transformation? From the people that make our purpose the reason why we do what we do.
Sayo may mata kada adlaw, mag-andam, musulod sa trabaho, aron masugaan namo hangtod sa pinakalayo nga dapit ug maprotektahan ang atong mga linya sa kuryente. Siguro para sa mga nanay kuryente daan, dili ni espesyal. Sama sa hangin, mamatik daw na nimo yung presensya kung wala na nimo ni damhi. Apan sa mga wala pa nakasinati ini, kadtong nagpuyo sa mga lagyong mga lugar, kabalo sila kung unsa kini ka importante. Isip ko sa kalainman, ginabuhat nako ang kutob sa akong arangan aron masigurado nga adunay kuryente ang tanang paningalay. Kauban ang Aboitiz Power, walay tawo o pamilya nga mapasagdan.
Importante siguraduhin ang reliable at affordable na supply ng electricity para sa lahat. Dahil pag siguradong maasahan at abot kaya ang kuryente, siguradong maasahan din ang asenso at abot kamay din ang mga pangarap. Ang mga bata, makakapag-aral, makakapagtapos, at makakapaghanap buhay ng maayos para sa mas magandang buhay para sa kanila at sa kanilang pamilya. And it's not just about uplifting their lives, but helping them achieve their dreams. Kaya ako narito. Kaya ako ginagawa ang best ko. Para lahat may chance, maging the best din para sa kanila.
The ultimate dream will always be to have a better world, not just for me, but for future generations. I want a future where my kids and their kids get to enjoy the things we got to enjoy in our childhood. Fresh air, parks to run barefoot in, nearby beaches to spend our weekends with the family. For me, this is why I do what I do with and for Aboitiz Power. I want to be part of creating and transforming energy that will drive and deliver the world I want for my family. It's not just about cleaner energy, it's also about access to energy, developing livable and walkable cities and enabling safe workspaces where I can be the best version of me. It's tough to think about everything that needs to be done, but together, kayang-kaya natin to.
Para sa mga nanay na nag-aalaga sa mga anak nila.
Para sa mga online seller na nagtitinda upang maitawid ang pangangailangan ng pamilya.
Para sa mga scholars na gabi-gabi nagpupuyat para makapagtapos sa pag-aaral.
Para sa mga mag-uuma nga gapaningkamot para makaon ang tibuok nasod.
For our children and our children's children.
For all of us and every Filipino.
For the country.
For the world.
Any transformation, a massive one at that, is never easy. But we have our collective determination, we have our passion to serve, and we have our drive to do what is good for stakeholders, for our people, and for every Filipino. And most importantly, we have the power. We can do this, and we will.
Hello again, everyone. We hope you felt the vibe and the passion across our Aboitiz Power teams. Ivy, Marvin, and pleased to be here with you today. We'd like to begin with our mission in Aboitiz Power. The reason we do what we do is best explained by our mission statement, which is to provide our country with these 3 R's: reliable power, at a reasonable cost, and in a responsible manner. And together with that, our massive transformation purpose, which is the title of this presentation today, transforming energy for a better world, meaning to say that our purpose is to transform or change the energy, the state of energy that we have today into another state, one that we believe will create a better world for you and for me. But before we go to that, more deeply, allow us to introduce ourselves more properly. Next slide, please. For those of you who may not be very familiar with our history, we have been in the energy business for over 100 years. In 1918, we entered the energy business by buying into an integrated power facility called Visayan Electric Company. We still own and operate this company today. Its franchise area is in Cebu, and it is the country's second largest distribution utility. So if you are from Cebu, we'd like to hear from you also today. In 1978, we incorporated a company called Headcore, which pioneered the building of run-of-river hydros in the Philippines. I worked in this company. So our heritage in the generation business is actually in the RE space. Now, in 2007, like Jep mentioned to you a while ago, we raised money as Aboitiz Power, or AP, through an IPO. And back then, our offer price was 5 pesos and 80 cents. Our entire energy business is housed under AP. This year, we celebrated our 15th year as a listed company. Next slide, please. Now, how exactly are we transforming energy for a better world? First of all, fun fact. Did you know that 1 in every 5 megawatts of installed capacity in the Philippines is from Aboitiz Power? This means that as an industry leader, we are able to deliver on our mission to the country and the grids that we serve in a very significant and meaningful way. We are the largest owner and operator of RE in the country, with an installed capacity of 1,553 megawatts of RE. Today, we are also the largest generation company, with a market share of almost 20%. We also operate the second largest distribution utility and retail electricity supply businesses. Second, we are able to leverage on our strengths to sustain our competitive edge in the market. We are the most diverse power generation company. Our portfolio of 49 generation facilities is actually our competitive edge. We are present across the Philippines with over 70% of our assets in Luzon, where most of the energy demand comes from. Our mix of 6 technologies allows us to address the needs of the entire 24-hour power stack. We have an experienced management team. As mentioned earlier, we have been in the energy business since 1918. And throughout all this, we have managed to expand our expertise by going into long-term strategic partnerships. The most recent of which is our partnership with JERA, the largest generation company in Japan, at 30% market share, which is 20 times our size, and gives us the capabilities to enhance our baseload generation with LNG to power, since JERA is one of the largest buyers of LNG in the world. And we believe this is important to investors, especially retail investors like you and me. We are in a strong financial position. For the first 9 months of 2022, 93% of our beneficial EBITDA was from our generation business, of which 81% was contracted in terms of energy sold. So we have very stable cash generation capabilities. In terms of leverage, we were comfortably at 1.0 times net debt to equity ratio, which is well within our threshold of 1.5 times. And of course, as Jep had also mentioned earlier, we have an attractive 50% payout ratio practice for our dividends. FYI, AP is part of the SE's recently launched Dividend Yield Index, which focuses on companies that consistently give high-yielding dividends. The 20 companies in this index are selected based on liquidity, free float, financials, and 3-year average dividend yield performance. Last but not least, our growth initiatives support our country's economic development, sustain our leading position, and meet the rising expectations of our stakeholders. By 2030, our aspiration is to double our generation portfolio to 9,200 megawatts and achieve a 50-50 balance between our RE and thermal capacities. How are we going to do this? We will do this without adding new coal. We will more than triple our RE capacity to 4,600 megawatts. For baseload, we are shifting our focus to gas. We have early feasibility studies, and within the next 10 years, we are targeting to build one gas plant with a capacity of 1,000 megawatts, unless a cleaner technology proves to be the more economical option. To get us started, we are looking at an LNG to power project in Cebu as an alternative to a third unit of Therma Visayas. Next slide, please. Just in case you missed our quarterly earnings report, we are happy to let you know that our beneficial EBITDA for the third quarter was significantly higher by 29% compared to the same quarter last year due to fresh contributions from GN Power Lingayen or GNPD Units 1 and 2, higher water inflows, and gains from commodity hedges. It was also higher by 23% versus last quarter, mainly due to higher water inflows and gains from commodity hedges. Now, the charts that I'm discussing are actually on the upper right-hand side of this slide. Now, as a result, our first 9 months beneficial EBITDA was higher by 9%. So it's this set of slides here on charts here on the left side, driven by fresh contributions from both units of GNPD, gains from commodity hedges, higher availability of GN Power Mariveles Energy Center, and higher water inflows. Now, in the midst of these rising commodity prices and the peso devaluation, and as a result of our good planning and forecasting, we were able to manage our fuel costs and honor our fixed price contracts. We were completely hedged on our fixed price contracts, which protected us in the midst of the coal price increase. We have had a comprehensive hedging program for commodity and currency as early as 2018. The higher performance was partially offset by the impact of Typhoon Odette, which we had late last year, and recognition of BI and LD claims last year. Without these one-off items, EBITDA would have been higher by 17%. Not shown here is our net income, which was up 24% higher year on year for the first 9 months. Now, if we were to exclude the impact of Typhoon Odette, LD, and BI claims recognized last year, net income for the first 9 months of 2022 would have actually been higher by 42% compared to the same period in 2021. And now, here's Marvin to update you on our industry outlook. Over to you, Marvin.
Thank you, Sir Judd. Okay, sorry. So in looking at the power industry, we usually start with the supply and demand outlook of the grid. This is because from concepts in economics, the interplay between supply and demand drives market prices. But in this case, electricity prices and in turn generation charges. Now let me walk you through the elements of the chart. So we have 6 bars in the chart, which represent the annual forecasted supply capacity in the Luzon grid. And each bar is divided into different technology sources for the supply of power. So we have the capacity sourced in megawatts from coal, the gray bars that you see, natural gas, the orange bars, solar, which are in yellow, and hydro, which are in blue. It can be noted that from the Luzon supply grid, the supply capacity is mostly sourced from coal, while natural gas comes in at second. On the other hand, in the chart, you can see 3 lines which represent the different annual levels of demand in the grid. The red line represents the average annual demand, while the black solid line represents the annual peak demand. Lastly, the broken line represents the peak demand with the buffer reserves. This broken line, representing the peak demand and the grid's reserves, has the buffer that the grid operator or NGCP decides on. This buffer is important because if there are unexpected events like forced outages in the grid or any fluctuations in demand, since demand is not linear, there will still be enough supply to cover for the demand. If there is not enough reserves in the grid, And if ever a plant goes on outage, market prices would be steep because the decreased supply cannot cover for the demand. And worse, there can also potentially be blackouts. Now, if we analyze the chart more, we can see that the supply bars for 2021 to 2023 and even 2024 do not or just barely fully cover the broken black line or the peak demand with the reserves. This leads us to our key message for this slide, which is that the Luzon supply and demand situation continues to tighten. And we have been seeing this in the past few months, as there have been multiple NGCP alerts, both yellow and red alerts, for the Luzon grid. And as our economy recovers and reopens once again, and assuming that the recent lifting of the mask mandate does not induce another surge in COVID cases, which can merit another lockdown, we expect this tight situation to continue and become tighter still in 2023 and onwards, as we only anticipate that new capacity will come in late 2025 or 2026. And amidst this evolving supply and demand situation, which includes other external issues, one of which is the impact of the DOE moratorium on the building of new coal plants, the challenge now is to find a reliable, cost-efficient, and suitable baseload replacement for coal plants, which at present, other technologies like RE cannot efficiently fulfill. Another pressing issue is the depletion of the Malampaya gas field. It is the source of supply of fuel for the natural gas plants, which is the second source of electricity, source of power in the Luzon grid. Amidst all of this, we really expect our new GN Power Dinginin or GNPD units to play a significant role in addressing the supply gaps and meeting critical market needs. And as you can see from the graph, the light gray bar, which represents GNPD units 1 and 2, are currently addressing the 2022 peak demand. Next slide, please. Okay, the tight supply and demand situation this year reflects in the prices in the wholesale electricity spot market or WESM. The WESM, for those of you who do not know, is the venue for trading electricity as a commodity in the Philippines. The average year-to-date load-weighted average price, or LWAP, was 7 pesos and 32 centavos per kilowatt hour, which is 65% higher compared to the same period in 2021. Based on PEMC updates, this was due to the thin supply in the market caused by an increase in unplanned outages of baseload plants and an increase in fuel costs driven by the ongoing Ukraine to Russia war. On average, we expect higher WESM this 2022 compared to last year due to the reasons I've mentioned, like the depletion of Malampaya gas field and the upward impact of higher indices given the ongoing Ukraine and Russia war. Also, for the demand side, we expect higher demand this year due to less or softer quarantine restrictions versus last year. And now here's Ivy to walk you through our growth projects. Over to you, Ivy.
Thank you, Marvin. So every quarter, we update the market on the status of our projects to show commitment and momentum. We have over 1,000 megawatts of disclosed projects so far. These have delivery commitments within the next 3 years. With that, we are well on our way towards delivering 3,700 megawatts of additional RE capacity by 2030. This is part of our decarbonization journey. In this table, the grid is where the plant will be connected. The project column is the project name. The net sellable capacity is the total capacity of the plant that it can offer to the grid, meaning less house load. The percentage ownership column is the current ownership of AP to each different facilities or plants. The attributable net sellable capacity is the total capacity based on the ownership of AP. The estimated commercial operation date is the expected date at which the project becomes a revenue-generating entity, the point at which electricity generated is being fed onto the grid, and the employer can start receiving payment for each kilowatt hour. Our capacity in the pipeline is mostly solar due to economics and ease of development. On a per kilowatt hour basis, the tariffs needed to meet return requirements for solar is less than those of wind and hydro. This is also less development, construction, and operating risk with solar. Allow me to update you on some projects in the next few slides. So this is the Kayanga Solar Project, 94 megawatts peak plant located in Barangay Kayanga, Municipality of Bugalyon, Pangasinan. Construction activities for control building, transmission line, switch yard, and PV module installations are ongoing. The overall project status was at 81% completion with zero lost time incident. This project is expected to commercially operate by the first quarter of next year. This is the Lawag Solar Project, a 159 megawatts peak plant located in Barangay Lawag, Municipality of Aguilar, Pangasinan. Clearing of roads going to substation was done, while site grading of substation and coarse layering of roads are ongoing. This will be our second solar venture in the province, following the Kayanga Solar Power Plant that I mentioned in the previous slide in the town of Bugalyon. The target commercial operations for this project is by the third quarter of 2023. This project is the SNAP's Magat Battery Project, which began construction in August this year. This is expected to commercially operate in the first quarter of 2024. We also recently signed a joint venture agreement with a global renewable energy company, Mainstream Renewable Power or Mainstream, to build a 90 megawatts onshore wind project in Limbaman, Camarines Sur. This joint venture marks our first foray into wind energy. The joint venture, which is subject to regulatory approvals, is being delivered through a 60% stakes in the onshore wind project, which Mainstream has been developing since 2017. This is expected to commercially operate in the fourth quarter of 2025. This one is the Mako Battery Project, which acquired the necessary certifications and permits needed to start commercial operations this month. It will serve a model for future battery investments as well as hybrid renewable energy projects. And now, to close our presentation, I will turn you back to Judd.
Okay, so last year, 2021, was a very positive year for AP, both in terms of financial performance and operational developments. No, a key driver of these achievements was our continued commitment to being a sustainable organization. Now, it's one thing to say that we have strong ESG practices that make us investable, but it's always helpful to have some kind of third-party testament or certification to this effect. So on that note, we are very proud to share that since 2018, for the fourth year in a row, our company has again made it to the FTSE for Good Index series. FTSE is a major global index like MSCI. Now, this index is designed to identify companies that demonstrate strong ESG practices measured against globally recognized standards. The criteria for inclusion have also been designed to help investors minimize ESG risks, and it's a really useful reference for investors, including retail investors like you and me that wish to align their investment portfolios with their values. So that is our final slide. Oh, wait, one last. For your better appreciation, we are only one of 13 Philippine companies in this index. So if you wish to check out the other Philippine companies in the index, you may Google them. This is our final slide. Our CFO, Lisa Montalibano, is now ready to take your questions. Back to you, Jeff.
Hey, John. Thank you very much for the
We're taking our turns in this chair.
I know.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hey, Lisa, thank you, and glad that you can join us this afternoon. You know, because of the carousel that you've been doing, I was thinking if I should also do something like that. Although I'm but you know, I like the energy. In fact, this is something that I've been feeling all throughout the Aboitiz group, not only in Aboitiz Power but also in your other units, no, in other SBUs. But yeah, but I know we only have a few minutes with you, and we have a lot of questions. So thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation. I have a lot of questions also in store, but let me go through them. First and foremost is from Alfred Benjamin Garcia. His question is on WESM. How many percentage of your power output is uncontracted and offered on WESM?
On WESM. Excluding GNPD, it's first excluding GNPD Unit 2, because GNPD Unit 2, actually, the moment it came fully online, it's entirely WESM. But excluding GNPD Unit 2, it was less than 20%. Okay, but here, as of our 9 months, it's still less than 20%, right? Because the GNPD Unit 2 here is still going to be minimal. But, you know, in general, so at least I'll give you a general view. Our intention is that we should thereabouts be around 20% exposed to SM is something that we're comfortable with. We've hovered around this percentage already. I think the lowest ever WESM exposure that we had was a little less than 10, like high single. And I think the highest that we've had was a little bit over 20. And our comfort level of how we oscillate in this range is really dependent on where we see the WESM prices going. Also, willingness of the market to contract. Because for us also, if you contract, it has to be a premium over West. If it's short term, right? And my certainty over the short term is greater. You know, it has to be premium over WSM. I'd be willing to kind of discount you versus WSM if you're giving me a longer term contract because you're reducing my volatility. But you know, in general, around 20% plus minus is where we're really going to stay.
Okay, thank you for that. Actually, I since you've mentioned that, I would just like to borrow something that was written in the newspapers about 3 weeks, even to more than a month ago. We're in, of course, this is going back to the issue we're in. Of course, SMC, Global Business Power, was having some issues, right? And of course, Meralco was able to was just doing their job in terms of securing an emergency power supply in case, of course, San Miguel Global Power does not deliver their what's in the contract. The price there was actually around 8 pesos per kilowatt hour, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I guess the question is, without putting you on the spot, no, is that a level of I guess price? Is that a price level that you'd be willing to contract on a longer term basis?
You know, this is what I'll put first. I guess, you know, the bigger piece about that issue is really, you know, the underlying principle of honoring commitments. I won't even go to whether the amount is justifiable or not. I won't even go there. I'm really going to be with, I think it's very important that we really honor our commitments.
Yeah, of course.
There were actually there were 2 Meralco bids. I think this was from the first one, and I recall this was a bid that we didn't even participate in, precisely
I remember.
understood the risks behind the fuel fixing.
Correct. Yeah.
And this situation now has proven why it was correct that we didn't participate.
Yeah.
I won't even go to, is that even a fair price to contract at? To me, I think
Yeah.
that's a very bad precedent when parties are
Mhm.
allowed to wiggle out of their commitments. I'd keep it at that.
Yeah. I mean, my question would actually have some more child questions from that, but moving on, I'll go through our audience's questions first. This is from Jaime Zalamea. Oh, okay. Has there been a change in strategy for new power contracts with customers? Change in duration, cost provisions, pricing.
Um, I'd say the change is the fact that, because before we would do fixed price contracts with a duration of up to 3 years because we would hedge it. So in fact, just to share with you, because this came up during the analyst briefing, how we ended up that we're completely hedged. I mentioned during the briefing that we've had a very comprehensive program for this since 2018. And that was because we started doing fixed price commitments back then. So let's say, for example, you're my customer. I give you a fixed peso per kilowatt hour price for a 3-year duration. For me to give you that, there's an underlying assumption of nuke and currency. And the way we would do it for each and every contract was, you sign and the ink isn't even dry. The whole thing is hedged already. So that was how we were contracting a lot in retail, fixed peso per kilowatt hour, we hedged. Now the thing now is because of the current commodity situation, the market is practically dry for hedges, or they're at rates that perhaps the retail customers would not be willing to. So that is what we've changed. I mean, if the market we're not willing to expose also ourselves, where we will do a fixed price contract with no backup hedge. So this is the part where we've changed our contracting now. It ends up either it's pass through, or it's linked to something else. So that is the change that we've done. But the underlying for this really is in the way we do contracting. We're very cognizant of risk mitigation and making sure that something that we commit to is something we can really fulfill.
Deliver. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I really like what I'm hearing, because what you're doing is practically risk management, which is also the heart of what we would like to espouse to our own investors. No? So taking a little bit of the time that we have to really highlight that one, I would like to go deeper into what you just said, but we have some more questions that are coming in. So I saw earlier a question from Marga Villar. How much of GNPD's capacity is contracted? How much of total capacity is contracted?
Right now, it's a little bit less than 500 megawatts running because they keep on contracting. It's a little less than 500, but I think there's already those that are up and coming. That's we're on the way to increasing that. That said, though, GNPD was really an asset that, for us, the objective is the first unit is contracted. The second unit was really on purpose. The game plan was something that we could expose to the market because we know it's efficient. We know that it will be competitive in WESM, and for us to be able to get contracts for Unit 2 is something we would do only if we get more value. But the goal is that's Unit 1 that's entirely contracted, and I think we're well on our way for our trajectory towards that.
I see. Just a quick question. I'll inject this question. Will you be able to share what's the cost of generating electricity for GNPD Unit 2? Is that something that you can share, or?
It is something we can share if Ivy will give it to me.
Baka ayaw ni Ivy. Sige, I can read between the lines.
Will give it to me. We'll get clearance for that. I think we can. I think Ivy will clear.
O sige, for the time being, I'm just curious because of course for the benefit of our listeners as well, given the high price of Wesem at the moment, I just want to know at what level does Wesem have to go down in order for you to, just be in trouble at least for this strategy of yours. But for as long as it's staying at 9, and of course it's Christmas season, Christmas lights will soon be up and running. I can only see for electricity consumption to just go up. Um, yeah. So from gross
This is how
metan.
I'll try to, well, for one, yes, you're right. Consumption is going to be up, and we're still in the recovery stage of the pandemic, so it continues to increase.
Mm,
And this is the part why I'm not sure we can really share it, because
mhm,
what we've done is, we the way really we've planned out is there were financial hedges and there's also physicals. So
mm,
there's certain agreements that we do in terms of pricing for our coal supply, which really allows us to be competitive. And
mhm,
I'd say the Western would really have to be super, 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 super duper low for us to get in
mm,
trouble with those prices. I don't think the Western will get to that level, at least in the next 10 years, I think. But,
mhm, mhm.
unless, the Philippines is in trouble and demand will really drop,
That's
unless
correct.
something happens,
We'll all be in trouble by then, yeah.
then we'll all be in trouble by then, right?
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. So going back to Gross Tan's question, because of the tight energy supply, do you see power outages in the summer season of 2023?
Um, I know in our last discussion, okay, well, but let's clear if it was really. We know for sure that the prices will remain elevated because of this.
Mhm,
Will it really go into outages? Normally what ends up leading into outages is when plants go on forced outage.
mhm,
In theory, and this is what everybody, all the plants try to do, because we know the demand is high during the summer. All of us try not to have a planned outage
mhm,
during the summer. I think in
mhm,
general, if none of the major plants break down during the summer, we would
mhm,
still manage, although the prices would remain elevated.
mhm,
However, I think the moment that you have a plant, a major one, anything that goes above 1,000 plus that's out accumulated, and we've this has happened in history. Sometimes Murphy
mhm.
comes, right? You have several plants that go down at the same time.
Yes.
An outage can happen.
Yeah, that's just what happened recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Anyway, question from Ian Binondo. How much of your output are fueled by fossil fuel, and how much is from renewables presently? What is your planned future mix?
So we are still currently in a 70-30 thermal renewable mix.
Mhm,
We are going to be at a 50-50 mix towards the end of the decade. So that's right. Including IB is correct. Now that I need to add GNPD, we're actually
mhm,
closer to 77-23 in terms
mhm,
of the thermal and renewable mix at present. But as you know, after GNPD, all of our new builds are all going to be renewable.
mhm, mhm,
So this percentage will slowly, well, actually, perhaps faster in the next 3 years, it will shift.
mhm.
And decade, it will be 50-50.
I see. Okay, so I'm just going to blitz all the questions that I see because we only have 5 minutes remaining. Question from Juan de la Cruz. What are AP's plans for investors who want pure RE play?
Because if investors, because we do actually have an interim holding company called ARI, where all
Mhm,
the where all the renewable investments are.
mhm,
Uh, Listing ARI eventually is a possibility, but for us, really, eye on the ball, build the capacity. For
mhm,
us to list ARI, it's going to be a combination of A, because we need it as part of the funding strategy, B, because we're able to create more value that way.
mhm,
Then that provides an option for investors who want a pure RE play. But
mhm,
what I'd offer up is really, AP in total is really an energy security play, where we know that we're building renewables so that eventually we can decommission thermals when the time is right. But unless you start, and for us actually, and I'll take this opportunity, sorry, it's the last 4 minutes, because Judd talked about our great transformation. Great transformation for AP, really, when we define it, is transforming towards renewable energy, digital transformation, because, and I think we've talked about this in a lot of different venues, how we're using technology to really improve the way we operate. And the third really is really looking for what's beyond the core, meaning because there's this traditional form of energies that we now play in. What else is there for that will really allow us to transition? It can be that it's not your typical form of solar, wind. Maybe there's something else, right? But somebody has to start studying how to move in the next space. That will perhaps really enable this entire energy transition, which is kind of to Judd's point, why our subtitle for the transformation campaign of AP is Transforming Energy for a Better World.
Okay, from Jose Vistan, from Sherwin Chan, Binondo Branch. Can you discuss the reasons behind the weakness of the distribution business, and do you I would just say, do you think this will persist?
Persist? Okay. So first, it was really because Typhoon Odette happened at the start of the year. Second, because of commodity price increase, there's a delay in them being able to pass that on to the end consumer. So so when the generators, because in some case, most of the utilities, their energy cost is passed on. So when the cost of commodity went up, that's passed on to them, and there's a delay before they're able to pass that on to consumers. But eventually they will. So it's really more
May lag.
delay than anything else. Yes.
I see. From Carlo Leonardo P. Arguelles, fossil fuel is still the most efficient, cheapest, and favorable moving forward in terms of energy production. Does AP agree? More coal plants in future?
It continues. It is still today the cheapest in terms of per kilowatt hour. However, we have made the commitment that we will try to look for alternative forms. We have talked about going into gas as an interim base load. So for now, it's that there's no discussions of us doing any new coal. I'm spending a lot of my time studying gas, so I think we'll eventually get into that. And of course, a lot of my time goes to renewables, so we're building a lot of those.
Okay, I'm very conscious of the time. I guess this is the last question that I can take. But you know what, Lisa? I have a lot of questions here. I guess I'll just send them over to you, and then I'll just directly speak to our investors regarding to discuss the answer. But for our last question this afternoon from Albert Uy, how much of the total power generation is from hydro? Thanks.
I think it's close to, Ivy will give it to me exactly. I think it's close to 10%. Because this is SNAP and Headcore. She just closed her. Sige, do you have any other question while
May,
I validate my answer, but I think it's 10%. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, last na talaga to because you said one more. What would you say is the biggest challenge AP faces in transitioning from thermal to RE? That's a very good question to close.
So hydro is 15. Okay, it's really the RE today in the Philippines, in large part, is solar. Land conversion is very difficult. Hydro also, because you're dealing with land in far-flung areas, and in some cases has IP issues. That is very difficult. But I think most of the places where you can do hydro, we've exhausted it, I think. So now it's a solar play, and now that's the problem, because solar in the Philippines is agricultural land, so there's a conversion angle. The next one is wind and offshore wind even, and your challenge there is transmission. So So for solar, it's the conversion of land. For wind, it's the cost of the technology plus transition plus transmission for us to really be able to do all these projects viably. That's the challenge.
Hmm. That's like opening a can of worms, and that would deserve another session. But you know what? That's all the time that we have this afternoon. And Lisa, thank you very much for joining us for the Q&A. I would like to pick your brains a little bit more, but maybe for another session. Hopefully, we can have you for your full year analyst briefing sometime, I guess, February, March, or April. But on behalf of AB Capital Securities, we would like to thank you, Lisa, for spending your time this afternoon with us. Judd, of course, and the team of your carousel team there, of course, Ivy and Marvin. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us and for shedding more light on how AP manages risk, delivers such kind of performance, and we're looking forward to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you and have a good weekend. All right. Okay. I thought that our session could have extended a little bit more, but of course, we are very grateful for the time we've been given. Um, you know, AP and the power industry is something that here we are looking at here at AB Capital Securities. There are only a few industries that are providing some growth prospects, bright spots, something that gun in the head, an investor, a client will ask us, what can I buy? What should I buy? Or what should I look at? If there's anything, the power industry is definitely one of those industries, one of the sectors that we feel there is an opportunity in. And the answer to that is very simple without even diving deeper as to the names. Um, as my chairman would always tell me, it's practically all about supply and demand. This sector, as I mentioned, is as Ivy, as Lisa, as Judd, and Marvin have articulated, there is definitely more demand, especially as the economy reopens, than there is supply. And we feel that, and of course, we don't have to just feel it because we've just heard it from Lisa. The supply demand imbalance will persist not only through the summer of 2023, but beyond that. And because of that, and because of that, we think there is really an opportunity to capitalize on. Yes, definitely, Mr. Juan de la Cruz, we will definitely a lot more time moving forward. But we're very thankful for the questions. We're very grateful for your participation. We promise to have a longer session, or maybe to bring them back for maybe not just an earnings call, but maybe for a learning session. So I don't want to take much of your time for this Friday afternoon. Again, on behalf of AB Capital Securities, we would like to thank you all for joining us. We are lining up a few more earnings call for everyone before the end of this month. Please stay tuned to our social media pages for the schedule. Please await any email from us for any invites. So on behalf of AB Capital Securities, this is once again Jeff Tang, your host and moderator for this afternoon, and I wish you all a good night, and may you all enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much. Goodbye.